All about cooking, all about nutrition, and all about you. Enjoy the show. Today's show brought to you by the Metabolic Makeover Program. Find out if you have weight loss resistance and how to heal it naturally. Today's show, paleo cheese bread. So I think I mentioned in one of the former shows that going paleo was only really possible for me if I could bake. So I really needed to find ways in order to get baked goods back into my life, and that I only knew of really almond flour and coconut flour in order to bake with. Well, we're gonna bake with something completely different today that I actually didn't even know was paleo until I researched it a little bit more. We're gonna cook with tapioca flour. So this cheese bread is actually Brazilian cheese bread. So if you've gone to a Brazilian restaurant and they have those little cheese rolls, that's what you have there. And it's made with only tapioca flour, which makes it paleo. Now, the downside of tapioca flour, it's made from yucca root or cassava root, is that it has no nutritional value to it, but hey, it's paleo and it's bread. So I'm like, have it, don't overdo it, but we're also gonna make a pizza crust out of this in the future. So we're gonna do, of course, a dairy-free paleo cheese bread, but you're welcome to make it with cheese, and I'll let you know when to put it in and what kind. So first we're gonna start off with 1/3 cup of water, 1/3 cup of milk, I'm gonna use almond milk, and 1/2 cup of olive oil in our pot. So I have here 1/3 cup of water, and then I have here 1/3 cup of almond milk, and my oven is already on 375, ready to go. And then I'm gonna use olive oil. Now, I'm using olive oil out of a tin because if you were listening to any of the shows that we did recently, Jeannie Peters and I did a show on a Wellness Wednesday called What Oil Am I Supposed to Use? And if you've watched these Tasty Tuesdays, I would really, really encourage you to go back and listen to that show. We covered all different kinds of oils and some of the misconceptions, and I even did a little boo-boo on my chicken recipe because I use canola oil. Don't use canola oil ever again. So go back and listen to that show. So 1/2 cup of olive oil. All right, now I'm gonna turn it on high, and we're gonna let this come to a boil, which should take about 5 to 10 minutes. So once we have our milk, oil, and water mixture boiling, you're gonna turn it off. Next, you're gonna add 2 teaspoons of minced garlic, or crushed garlic as I like. Again, you can omit the garlic if you don't like garlic. However, I honestly wouldn't add any more. All right, first, before I add the flour, I'm gonna stir in my garlic to this olive oil and water mixture. Once that's nice and evenly stirred, I'm gonna add 2 cups of tapioca flour. Now, I keep my tapioca flour in a bag because it's really fine and it's very dusty and it makes a mess. So in case you see it fly all over the place, that would be tapioca flour. So I'm gonna use, and it also, when you look for it in the store, it might also say tapioca starch. So tapioca flour or tapioca starch, again, made from cassava root and from yucca. And I'm adding 2 cups. Now I'm using 1/2 cup since I already dirtied it with my olive oil. So, and I only cut a small hole in this as to not make a big mess. So that's 1 cup. 2 cups, and my oven is ready. And we're gonna go, not 2 cups, that's 2.5. Now we're at 2. Okay, and you wanna be careful. Again, it makes a mess. And then you're gonna stir that around. And then we're gonna actually let it sit here for about 5 to 10 minutes before we add the other ingredients. We're just gonna let it cool down a little bit. So you're adding the tapioca flour into the water, garlic, olive oil, and you can actually use butter instead of olive oil, but for our purposes today, just to make it easier, I used olive oil. But you can replace, and it's equally as good, you can replace the 1/2 cup of olive oil with 1/2 cup of melted butter, or of course, since you're in a saucepan, just melt the butter in the saucepan. All right, so as you can see, it's kind of clumpy, and that's good. So we're gonna let that sit there for about 5 minutes. So next, after your mixture has been sitting for about 5 to 10 minutes, we're gonna add the cheese and the egg. Now I will mention that in the beginning when I put in the milk and the water and the oil, I did add some salt, 1 teaspoon of salt. If you're using regular cheese, Parmesan cheese, you might not need the salt. I'm going to use a dairy-free cheese. I'm going to use Ardea again, and just because I want the cheesy flavor of it. And it actually calls for 2/3 of a cup. So I'm just going to guesstimate with my hands. 2, 3. Okay. And then I'm adding 2 beaten eggs to this. And you add the eggs after it's done. Now this Brazilian cheese bread has sort of a crunchy outside and a gooey inside, which is really yummy. And I will show you how to make it into a pizza crust later in actually an even easier way than this. So we're going to mix that all up. We want to get the cheese melted. We want to get the egg evenly spread through this. It's going to be a little watery. All right. Now, if you have a mixture like I just did right now and it's super watery, I would recommend using a muffin tin, little muffin tin, which I'm going to use right now. You can also roll it into balls. And actually, we used to get them, someone used to make them for us, and they'd make this mixture, roll them into balls, and freeze them. And we get a bag of frozen cheese bread that we could just bake 1 or 2 at a time. So you can go ahead and put it on a stone or a cookie sheet if you want to make round little cheese ball bread. Or you can actually even make like sandwich buns out of it. But I'm going to use the muffin pan because it's super easy. And this, of course, is a little gooey. And because of all the oil and the cheese, and this is actually a nonstick pan, you don't need to add any extra oil. I just want to comment how excited my crew is here about cheese bread. Waving their hands. Okay, actually I want to make a little bit more in here. Okay, yeah, that's not enough. All right, let's clean this up. I'll use my fingers, they're clean. They get washed a lot in this kitchen. So you're gonna stick this in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. So once your cheese bread is done, and again, I've done them in nice little muffin cups. They're pretty hot and they're real crunchy on the outside, but if I break it open, you'll see that it's nice and steamy and gooey on the inside. So let them cool down completely before you eat them, obviously, because they're really hot. And you don't need any extra olive oil or anything else on it unless you want some chili oil to make it a little spicy. But other than that, enjoy your Paleo non-dairy cheese bread.
The Fit to Love podcast show offers you 6 days a week of helpful content to achieve the happy life you deserve. Movement Mondays and Tasty Tuesdays are weekly videocasts, while Wellness Wednesdays, Thoughtful Thursdays, Freedom Fridays, and Sexy Saturdays are audio-only shows themed every week to address your holistic life and needs. If the show inspired you, we would love for you to share it and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us today. Head on over to fittolove.tv for recaps of every show, resources, and to join the community. That's FIT, the number 2, LOVE.tv. Have a fit and fabulous day.